Let's go now with the study of ethnography. So, ethnography is the study of culture. It is in many ways similar to anthropology, this being the study of human societies and culture. I have not done ethnography yet, only the data gathering of ethnography, because that was the only thing required of us at that time, was to gather data on the society and culture of a certain place. But developing it and writing it, I have not experienced doing. Well, exploration and data collection can occur in either an emic or ethic approach. Emic meaning that the observation happens from within the culture, and ethic meaning the observation is external looking in. Well, that's according to Taylor and Francis in 2016 and 2006 and 2013. Ethnography is used to explore questions relating to the understanding of a certain group's beliefs, values, practices, and how they adapt to change. Ethnographic studies can be about identifying inequalities. For example, exploring racial and cultural aspects of how a cultural group functions and the rules that guide behavior. So, like if you want to have an ethnographic study of a behavior of uh, a particular ethnic group, then you can do ethnography. One form of ethnography is an autoethnography, which involves exploration of the self as a topic being explored. So, what's the purpose? It's to describe the characteristics of a particular culture or ethnographic group. What are the methods? So, first, the researcher places themselves, himself, as a participant observer amidst the culture. So, if you are conducting an ethnography I experienced, you are a participant observer. I am part of the study in the middle of a particular culture. So, the setting is very important consideration within the ethnographic studies, as the exploration of the people and their behaviors must be within the context of that cultural situation. Methods used may include but not limited to observation, but that's the top priority. It's observation, interviews, focus groups or focus group discussion, review of documentary evidence, and keeping field notes. I remember when we did the collection of data, we had a lot of observation with the movement of the people. Like we will stay there different hours of the day, then we will have to conduct interviews, structured, non-structured, just an ordinary interview with people. We had to invite different informants for the focus group. There's review of documentary evidence because we wanted to know if there are documents that prove why this is the behavior of the people every time they are celebrating feast day of the saints of that particular place while we are studying the culture. And of course, we always keep field notes all the time. There are a lot of sources of data for an ethnographic study. What are the methods? So, of course, first one, you would have to include identifying the culture to be studied. So, you would have to identify the culture that you intend to study. You will have to identify the significant variables within the culture. You need to review existing literature. You need to gain the entrance. So it's not an automatic thing. You should have to visit the place that you will study for several times, establish the entrance, and then you have to immerse within the culture or observe the culture. You have to acquire the informants, you have to gather data, you have to describe the culture, and you have to develop theories out of it. Out of the study that you are conducting, theories need to be developed. So, what's the strengths? What are the strengths of an ethnographic study? Direct insight into the lives and experiences of the people and the group of interest. It allows for rich, detailed data to be collected. Because you have a lot of sources of data, very rich for an ethnographic study, because you will not be able to write a thick description of that particular study that you are conducting if you're not going to have variety of sources of data. It provides an opportunity for researchers to uncover new unknown ways of thinking. So there are so many things that you will discover in an ethnographic study, why people are still into uh, old beliefs, traditional beliefs. You would be able to discover that. Researchers may become aware of behaviors, trends, and beliefs that are present within one culture, although this may be previously unknown to other cultures. This enables new opportunities for improved ways of viewing and solving issues within other cultures. There are a lot of discoveries that you will find in an ethnographic study. From the data gathering itself, it's there are a lot of things unfolding in front of your very eyes when you get to talk to the informants, to your participants. It's a good way really, because it's not only one shot of interviewing, one shot of focus group discussion. No, it's an iterative process. You always come, you write, you come and visit them again, and then you write again, and then when you saw there's something that you need to know more, and then you would have to go back. It's really a zigzag. It's really an iterative process that makes ethnographic study very taxing, but it's very engaging, but it's very fulfilling. What are the limitations? Of course, any study, any qualitative study will have its own biases, or they have their biases. Biases can be apparent because a researcher will always bring with them their own culture and own perspective, which may impact their interpretations of the experiences they observe within this different culture. Like, say for example, I am from Upland, Cavite. Totally, if I am studying the culture of another place in Cavite, especially in the lowland, it's totally different, and I will be affected, my interpretations will be affected by what I am used to. So genuine cooperation and engagement from the people of interest may not always be forthcoming, and rapport might be difficult to establish. I never had any experience establishing rapport, considering that we did it as a group when we were doing the ethnographic study data gathering. It was not difficult for me because of course I'm a Filipino, and we are interviewing Filipinos, but my classmates were mostly foreigners. So they had difficulty establishing the rapport because of course if you're studying the culture, most of your informants, most of your participants are quite older, who may not be very eloquent at speaking English or at speaking the language. But with me, it was easy for me to gather the data. Why? Because I'm speaking the same language as our informants. So these are the limitations, these are the biases. Always, if you are going to study a culture and language is a barrier, these are the limitations. This will be issues that would have to be struggled by the researcher and the informants. There can be a greater cost involved for this study type than others. Yes, of course, because you need to go for transportation, accommodation, you need to live in the place for several days or weeks, and researcher time that is spent in the field among the participants. You really need to spend a lot of time. This can be greater than would be spent in a different research methodology where the engagement may be limited to a laboratory or shorter duration. If you're conducting phenomenology, if you're conducting case study, it will just be like 2 to 3. 5 will be 4. 3 or 4 may be the maximum time that you will have to meet your participants. But with ethnography and grounded theory, it's more time that you would have to see your participants or your informants. Certain logistics can pose challenges for this type of research approach, such as traveling and getting access to communities depending on their unique cultural values. For example, there are many indigenous societies that only permit people of certain genders to have access, because there are others who are saying that males are not given not given permission to visit a particular indigenous society or a particular indigenous community. So something like that. These are the readings that I got from it. So if you are limited with that, it could pose a problem for you as a researcher. So that's it, guys. If ever you have questions, you can post your questions, or you can ask me when we see each other on March 18. So I will be allotting time if you want to clarify something. So have a blessed day, everyone.